The towering figure of Commander Threk cast a long shadow across the negotiation chamber. Standing nearly 12 feet tall, his obsidian exoskeleton reflected the dim lights of the human outpost. The other humans pressed themselves against the walls, their eyes wide with terror as the massive alien warrior rolled his four shoulders in obvious displeasure. "Your terms are unacceptable," Threk rumbled, his voice like stones grinding together. "The Voidborn Confederation requires absolute submission." The diplomatic team exchanged nervous glances. 3 months of careful negotiations were about to collapse. Admiral Reeves wiped sweat from his brow and stared at the data tablet in his hands, desperately searching for alternative proposals. Only Lieutenant Tom Reed remained calm. Where others saw a monster, he saw a being far from home, surrounded by potential enemies. Standing a modest 5'9", Tom was dwarfed by the alien commander, yet he stepped forward while others retreated. "Perhaps we could take a brief recess," Tom suggested, his voice steady. "Sometimes a short break helps clear the mind." Threk swiveled his massive head, compound eyes focusing on the small human. "Time is wasted on weakness, or invested in clarity," Tom countered. "Even the mightiest warriors of Earth rest between battles." Something shifted in Threk's posture. Perhaps curiosity, perhaps respect. "Very well. 1 hour by your time measurements." As the delegation filed out, Admiral Reeves grabbed Tom's arm. "What are you doing? These negotiations are falling apart." "With respect, sir, I think I understand him better than we realize," Tom replied. "Let me try something unofficial." 20 minutes later, Tom entered the ship's observation deck carrying 2 containers. He found Threk standing alone, staring out at the stars. The alien's massive frame seemed somehow less threatening in the quiet solitude. "I brought refreshments," Tom said, approaching slowly. "This one is water. The other is a beverage from my hometown called coffee. It's bitter but stimulating." Threk turned, his forearms crossing defensively. "You approach me without guards?" "Unwise." Tom shrugged. "If you wanted to kill us, you would have done so already." A low rumble emerged from Threk's chest. The alien, equivalent of laughter. Perceptive for such a fragile creature. "We're not as fragile as we look," Tom replied, setting the containers down on a nearby table. "And I suspect you're not as unyielding as you appear." For several minutes they stood in silence, watching distant stars. Then Tom asked, "Is this your first diplomatic mission? Is it so obvious?" Threk responded, his voice lower than before. "You're trying to appear stronger than necessary," Tom said. "Common tactic among new negotiators of any species." Threk uncrossed his arms. "The elders warned me humans would attempt psychological manipulation." "Is honest conversation manipulation?" "Perhaps not," Threk admitted, reaching for the container of coffee with one massive hand. The vessel looked tiny in his grasp. He sampled it cautiously. Bitter indeed, but not unpleasant. As they talked, Tom learned that Void-born culture prized strength above all. Showing any flexibility in negotiations was seen as weakness, a cultural constraint that explained Threk's rigid stance. "Your people respect authority," Tom observed. "Ours value independence. Perhaps this is why we struggle to understand each other." "Your independence appears chaotic to us," Threk admitted. "Yet you achieve remarkable results despite your small stature and limited lifespans." When they returned to negotiations, something had changed. Threk maintained his imposing presence, but subtle shifts in his language suggested openness to compromise. The diplomatic team noticed immediately, glancing at Tom with puzzled expressions. Over the following weeks, while formal talks progressed slowly, Tom and Threk continued their unofficial conversations. They shared stories of their worlds, discovered surprising similarities in their values, and gradually built something neither had anticipated: friendship. One evening, as they played a strategic board game Tom had introduced, Threk asked, "Why did you approach me when others feared to do so?" Tom considered the question carefully. "Fear limits understanding. I wanted to understand." "Your people think you foolish for this," Threk observed. "Perhaps. But being understood is a universal need, isn't it? The breakthrough came during the final negotiation session. When discussions reached an impasse, Threk made an unprecedented gesture. I propose a mutual defense agreement rather than submission. Our strengths combined would benefit both our peoples. The human delegation was stunned into silence. Such a proposal from the notoriously domineering Voidborn was unheard of. Later, when the historic agreement was signed, Admiral Reeves approached Tom. "How did you know this would work?" "I didn't," Tom admitted. "I just treated him as a person, rather than an alien." On the day the Voidborn delegation prepared to depart, Threk sought out Tom one final time. The massive warrior towered over his human friend. "My people have a tradition," Threk said, extending one enormous hand. In his palm lay a small obsidian shard. "This is from my own exoskeleton, shed during growth. To give a piece of oneself is the highest form of respect." Tom accepted the gift with reverence. "We have a similar tradition." He offered a simple woven bracelet. "This was made by my grandfather. It's one of my most valued possessions." The bracelet disappeared in Threk's massive hand, yet the alien handled it with surprising gentleness. "The elders were wrong about humans," Threk said. "They believed your smallness made you weak. I have discovered that sometimes the smallest creatures possess the greatest courage." As the massive Voidborn ship disappeared into the darkness of space, Tom stood watching from the observation deck, the obsidian shard cool against his palm. In a universe filled with towering creatures of unimaginable power, sometimes the bravest act was simply extending a hand in friendship. And sometimes, that was enough to change the course of history.